What's crack, guys? Welcome back to my channel. It's Kazzie, and in this video I'm going to be sharing with you my August wrap-up. I know I just did my last wrap-up for June and July, so to get back on track I'm just going to do my August one now, get it out of the way, and on time, relatively on time, I think. And August was a fairly average month for me. I read 6 books. Again, it was another month where I thought I was only going to get through about 2 books, but thankfully I managed to get through 6. So without further ado, let's just get into them. August was also the month where I decided to lower my reading goal of 90 books. About halfway through August, I realised that I was sacrificing books that I really wanted to read in favour of those that were shorter, and ones that I wasn't as excited to read than I was about the ones that were bigger and longer and would have taken me slightly longer to read. But I decided to lower my reading goal on Goodreads so that I wasn't getting stressed out about being like X books behind schedule, and I was getting like quite behind schedule. When I lowered it to 80, then it just kind of felt like a weight off my shoulders. Yes, it's a weird thing to kind of worry about. Reading should be recreational, not something that you should be pressuring yourself to do. Lowered it by 10 books to hopefully see if I could do that. I'm well on track to do that, so yay! So the first book that I read in August was Daughter of Smoke and Bone by Laini Taylor. This is a book that has been on my TBR for about a year. I actually bought this last April. If you watch my first book haul, you'll notice that this was in it. And in June I did a video where I revisited that first book haul and was seeing if I had read all the books in it, and this one let me down because I had not read it yet. At the start of August, I was up in Belfast in Starbucks, and they actually had this in the Starbucks library section, I want to say that's what they call it. So I was waiting to meet somebody, and so I decided to pick this up and start reading it, and I got about 20 pages in before they actually met me, and I actually loved this book. It was so different to anything else that I've read recently. I'm kicking myself for not reading it sooner. So this follows, what's her name, Carew, and she is raised by like demons, and she goes to this art school in Prague, and she is like a messenger for this demon, but the door to that place is closing, and she has to decide whether she wants to stay there or stay in Prague, and she finds out all of this stuff about herself that she didn't even know. She meets this very enigmatic guy who is actually trying to kill her. It's one of these stories that is very different and very unique, and it just made me fall back in love with Laini Taylor's writing. And the top of this edition it says Northern Lights and Pan's Labyrinth in one, and I could definitely see the Pan's Labyrinth side of it. I thoroughly enjoyed the characters that Laini Taylor introduces. I thoroughly love the world, or the worlds should I say, that are introduced, and the way that Carew is introduced to all of them. All of them? I'm suddenly Australian. That was like a ridiculous attempt at Australian, but okay, sorry. I apologize for butchering that accent. I love the worlds that Laini Taylor creates. She's an incredible world builder for an author. I absolutely love the worlds that she creates, and I just really enjoyed this book, and I give it 4 stars. There was one element that really just brought down that rating, and that was the romance in it. It just like felt like so YA that it just took a little bit of enjoyment out of it for me. After that, I picked up Catwoman Soul Stealer by Sarah J. Maas. This is the 3rd book in the DC Icon series, which follows, of course, Selina Kyle. This book is unlike anything that I have read or seen about Selina Kyle. There are so many Batman incarnations that bring about Selina Kyle's backstory, like the animated series, Batman, The Dark Knight Rises, I think that's the one it was, and just so many comics out there that are about Catwoman. But this is unlike anything that I have seen before. I loved this book. I loved it. Like the first chapter I was hooked, because then it brought in a character that I absolutely adore from the DC universe. I was living for everything in this book. Even the introduction of Poison Ivy and Harley Quinn, because Selina Kyle comes back to Gotham as this socialite. She's created this fake identity of a socialite, so she can like go underneath the radar, and like everybody believes that Selina Kyle has gone to boarding school. She's like off the map. She's just doesn't exist anymore, but she comes back as a socialite, and she teams up with Poison Ivy and Harley Quinn to do the whole save Gotham from itself kind of rhetoric. I loved Poison Ivy. I loved Harley Quinn. She had Harley Quinn down to a T. What I will say about this book is that it drew so many parallels to Arrow. If you've never watched Arrow, it's a television show about the Green Arrow. It brings in a lot of other things from the DC universe, but this storyline was right out of Arrow. It reminded me so many times of what happened with Sarah Lance and with the Queen and even Laurel. It just reminded me so much of that. I was like thinking, okay, Sarah J Maas has watched Arrow. It just reminded me so much of it on every single page. I was like, this is Arrow, this is Arrow, this is Arrow. And I did not hate that. I loved that about this book. And it really made me appreciate what I loved about Arrow at the same time. If you haven't watched Arrow and you've read this, then go watch Arrow, because you will realize, oh yeah, that's like literally out of Arrow. And I as I said, I don't care that it's literally out of Arrow. I loved it, and so I give this 5 stars. There was a moment when I was like, this isn't a 5-star, but then at the end I was like, oh yeah, that does make sense that actually happened. So I'm happy, and I kind of wish that this wasn't just a standalone. I could have done with another book about this thick about Selena Kyle, and the best part is Batman doesn't feature in this, which is wonderful. I am so happy that Batman didn't come into this. It's all by Batwing, his sidekick. That was very interesting for me to see that Batman did not feature in this. He kind of like has like an eye on Gotham, but he's not in Gotham, which is fabulous. So yes, 5 stars. After that, I finally got around to Ink Death, the final book in the Inkworld trilogy by Cornelia Funke. Oh my goodness, Ink Death, what did you do to me? This book, it is like massive. Like, it's like half the size of my hand. It is really, really big. The thing about this book was, at the start, I got about that much into it, and I just put it down for a while. I actually started this in July, and I just had to put it down because it felt like it was going at a much more glacial pace than Inkheart or even Inkspell. That really took the enjoyment out of it for me. Maybe if I had gone straight on to Ink Death after Inkspell, I wouldn't have felt like that, but that's just the way that I did feel when I was reading this. It felt like it was moving at a much more slower pace, as if Cornelia was letting it breathe naturally or something like that. But nevertheless, I very much enjoyed this book. I love the character development within this book, especially with Mortimer and Dustfinger. Yes, Dustfinger. I loved his arc in this, and there was a point where I was nearly crapping myself, and I was about to curse Cornelia Funke from here to the end of the earth, because I thought, okay, you've done this, and then you did that just for this to happen. Not okay. But then it made sense, and I was just like, oh, damn, I loved that little sneaky thing there, Cornelia, little sneak. Yet there were times when I was just like, okay, can we just like move on from this part? And I was getting like bored with some characters and their arcs, and some of them were just getting a bit more, were getting whiny and complainy, and I was just like, really, Cornelia, can you just like kill them? I wouldn't mind. Overall, it was a very good ending. I enjoyed the ending. I was surprised by the ending. I was like, really? Okay, I would have thought it would have gone the other way, but okay, I'm on board for that. It was a very satisfying read, you know, even though there were parts of it where I was just like, okay, can we actually speed this up? Can we actually just like jump ahead a wee bit? But at the same time, it was very satisfying to read, and very satisfying to actually let the book come to life and develop in the way that it did, if you know about Inkheart and the Inkworld trilogy. Overall, I give it 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. After Ink Death, I picked up Batman Nightwalker by Marie Lu. This is the second book in the DC Icon series. After reading Catwoman Soul Stealer, I just kind of felt like I was missing something, and I actually did want to read Batman Nightwalker. I actually saw this when I was in Manchester, and I was like thinking, do I want it? Do I want it? Do I want it? And it was a no then, but after reading Catwoman Soul Stealer, I was like, okay, I need to read the Batman version. The DC Icon series takes the iconic characters, you know, like Wonder Woman, Batman, Catwoman, and then Superman, and they take them at their teenage years, and they create a story about them. In Catwoman, Selena is 17 and then she is 19, and in Batman he is 18. He's just turned 18 and he's gotten access to all of the Wayne billions of dollars. And on his birthday he throws this big lavish party fundraiser in memory of his mother, because that's what she did, and so he's trying to continue on her legacy. But something happens and he takes the new car that he's testing out for Wayne Industries. He comes across a police scene in progress, and the getaway car for the bad guys is ridiculously fast and the cop cars wouldn't be able to keep up with it, but Bruce has this super fast car, and so he goes in pursuit, stops the bad guys, but also he puts himself in danger and he puts the lives of everybody else in Gotham in danger. And so they kind of sentence him to community service in Arkham Asylum, where he meets this enigmatic girl called Madeline. He finds himself drawn to her, and nobody in Arkham can get her to talk, and she starts talking to Bruce, and the Gotham PD kind of like try to use him to get information out of her, but it's a whole different ballgame than that. It's not as simple as that. Where Catwoman Soul Stealer was more of an action-packed book, this one is more psychological, because we get to the part where Bruce is becoming Batman. The seeds are being sown for him becoming Batman, and that's what I really loved about this. Madeline gets into his head and tricks him and uses everything against him, and he starts figuring out what he wants to do with his life and how he can go about it using the Bruce Wayne name and the Wayne technologies that they are developing. And I really loved this book. I loved how it went through all of these stages, how Bruce started to really get a grip of, you know, how he wanted to help the Gotham Police Department and how much he wanted to help the people of Gotham and how much he wanted to make his parents proud and make Alfred proud and just be the man that he is going to become in the latter years. I didn't think I was going to love it as much as I did, but this was definitely a 5-star read. After that, I listened to the audiobook for Cress, the third book in the Lunar Chronicles by Marissa Meyer, and I absolutely loved this book. Cress brings in the story of Rapunzel, and I was like wondering, how is Marissa Meyer going to do this? Oh my god, she did it in the best way possible. I couldn't believe that that was how she was introducing the character of Rapunzel and the story of Rapunzel, and how she developed the other characters' storylines from Cinder and from Scarlet, and oh my goodness, I fell even more in love with Thorn than I could have thought possible. As the story progressed, I was living for every twist and turn that the characters took, for every step that they took, every development that every character took. I loved them oh so much. And even the ending, I was like, what? Yes, I love that ending so much, and I cannot wait to get on to Winter, which is the fourth book, and it's going to be the longest audiobook I've probably listened to, because I think it's about 23 hours. I know what I'm going to be doing, mostly on the flight to my cruise, and on the cruise, I know what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be listening to Winter. Winter is introduced slightly in Cress, so you kind of realize, you know, there's more to Winter than meets the eye, and I am living for this series. I am loving it so much, and I'm kicking myself for not getting into it earlier. It's just fantastic. And of course, it was 5 stars. I could not give it anything but 5 stars. I've had actually a very good reading month with a lot of things being 5 stars. I haven't had a dud this month, which is awesome, which is fabulous. And the last book that I read in August was actually a play, and if you watched my reading resolutions for 2018, you might know that one of my resolutions was to read more plays, and I found this in Waterstones and decided to pick it up, and that was La Casa de Bernardo Alba by Federico Garcia Lorca. And this is a Spanish play, and the wonderful thing about this book is that in the book itself, this side is all in Spanish and all of this side is translated into English. I could have used this book when I was in high school and we were studying this for AS level. I took Spanish to A level. We studied this play, The House of Bernarda Alba. It follows Bernarda Alba and her 5 daughters, Angustias, Magdalena, Martirio, Adela, and Amelia. Not in that order of birth. They live in this village in rural Spain. The father has just died. It's Bernardo's second husband, and they've just died, and so they're entering into their period of mourning which lasts for 8 years. Yeah, at the same time, Bernarda is trying to get her daughters married, and Gustias has like a suitor in Pepe el Romano, I think his name is, but he has eyes for Adela. Bernarda will not have anything to do with that. She wants, you know, right, this and this, you're getting married to him, you're getting married to him, you're getting married to him, you're getting married to him. But the gossip around town is that that he just wants Angustias for her money because she inherited from her father, which was Bernarda's first husband. Bernarda will not have anybody gossip about her family. There will be nothing sensational or scandalous to do with her family. She will not deal with that, yet she's happy enough to gossip about everybody else. She doesn't know that her daughter do a lot of things behind her back. It just goes from that, and of course, like 5 girls living under one roof, you know there's going to be some cat fighting, there's going to be something going wrong at every moment. And then of course Bernarda's mother lives with her, and she is like very old, and she's a few cups shy of a full tea service. It's a very quick read. I read the English side. Not a lot of action happens in this play. It's very much talking and psychological about, you know, what it is to be a Spanish woman in, what year is it? 1930s? In the 1930s? Yes, 1936. I enjoyed it a lot more now than when I did when I was studying it, probably because I was studying it, and probably because I was like trying to like figure out how to talk about this damn play in Spanish. The best part about it is that I was learning a lot more Spanish just by reading this now. Like, especially, like, of course, I'd just be like, claro, or you must be pleased, estarás contenta. It's much more of a educational read for me now than it was back then, and much more entertaining now that I'm older than when I was 17 trying to study it. Yeah. Even though not a lot happened in this play, I really enjoyed it, and again, I give it 4 stars, mostly because I was enjoying it a lot more now. If you had told me when I was 17 what I would rate this, it would just be 1. So there you have it, guys. Those are all of the books that I read in August. I am very pleased with all of the books that I read. I'm so glad that I read all of these in August. They were wonderful reads. Let me know in the comments down below what books you read in August. Are any of these on your TBR? Do you want to read any of these now? And subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!